You are listening to The Local, hosted by Sam Muscat and proudly supported by the Altona Traders Association. It's great to be here again today. We've got a great guest, the Mayor of Hobsons Bay City Council, Diana Grimma. I was going to put on a Maltese accent, but that's not going to happen. Welcome onto the show, Mayor Grimma, and it's truly an honour to have you on The Local.
I'm very honoured to be here, and it's very exciting.
It's great. Look, there's a lot of things that go through my mind in regards to, your elevation to being or becoming the Mayor of Hobsons Bay. But one of the things that has really intrigued me is your history, your background, and here I was thinking, Grimma, Maltese parents, but no, wrong. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what sort of drove you to come to, be a councillor even.
Okay, so I'm a third generation from Altona Meadows and Laverton local. It's been a stronger sense of community spirit that you'll ever find in our community. Our neighbours, our community is just awesome. My father, Mr. John Hogg, served as council between 2008 to 2012.
So your father served time as a councillor?
Yes, he did.
With this council?
With Hobsons Bay. And prior to that, he was, for decades, a very active member in our great community. With Laverton Integrated Services, with food relief, with helping run food relief and also other programs that were involved. He helped with which I also supported, the Laverton and Altona franchise Bendigo Bank. We collected, funded with great community-minded people. We were one of the two. I was still in high school when I was doing it for the Laverton and Altona Bendigo Bank franchise, collecting funding, having open days, information sessions, and that's our history. But we also helped save our local Laverton aircraft train station,
a very important railway station, I must say.
In aircraft that's
absolutely.
Based in Laverton. It was determined that we should not have a station, so we, with the community, hopped on the ground. My dad was serving council at that time.
What year was that?
It was over 10 years ago, I believe. I can't believe the specific date, but it was about 10 plus years ago. And we had a great councillor, Mr. Hogg, who was fighting to save aircraft station. But I hopped on as a resident, a concerned resident with our great community, with the traders, with people who are affected, older people, younger people, to say we need this train station. So that was
for our listeners too. I mean, that was at a period where the council wasn't as big as it is today after amalgamations, because that was pre-amalgamations time when your father was a councillor, yes?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think that would have been. But it's really interesting. So you were actually brought up in that council environment, if you like, probably running around with Dad and...
look, I was brought up in a very active environment. So I've been active and I've continued to be active for 15 years now, about 15 years with the Laverton Integrated Centre. I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to collect food supplies up to about $150 to $200 of food for the Laverton Integrated Centre, and most every week I do.
Even now?
Drop them off even now.
Excellent.
Me, my family, yes, my father and I did join council, but this is not the reason we did it. We did it, both of us have a history of decades before entering council, being active in our great community.
And I suppose your father working in the area, well, he didn't work in the area, he worked in the city.
He worked in Elizabeth Street at the post office. That's now a shopping mall. He was very actively involved representing post workers, Telstra workers, as a senior manager. So he was also in the corporate world, and he has used his corporate experience and into the greater community with his connection. Yeah.
Did your father move to Altona to begin with, or
my father's
or your parents? I should.
My father's lived in Laverton all his life. My grandparents came to Laverton in the 50s. They were from the Air Force. And my grandfather was at the Laverton and Point Cook Air Force.
Wow, that's
something
very close to my heart, I've got to say.
Yes.
It would be a subject that I could talk to you about for a while, about the Point Cook base too, because there's some real bad things happening there, but that's another subject altogether. So you basically was brought up in a council environment through your parents or through your dad. So was that the main reason why you wanted to get involved in council?
To be honest, as I mentioned, it was decades before. I remember being the age of 3, going to the local community centre, being an observer, but then the following week I would pack boxes for food relief. I would help Santa Claus run the errands on Christmas time. I'm very connected to our community and getting things done, whether it's footpaths, whether it's being a listener to our great community, whether it's infrastructure and services is core to my heart. I'm in my working life, community sector is my background.
That's great.
So I've advocated, I've been on the ground being a listener and also supporting elderly and youth of all ages. And that's my background.
It sounds like a real passion too.
It is a passion. It is a passion.
Because it really shows. And, listening to you, there's definitely driven by passion too. Yes, your father might have been the founder or the foundation for you to get into this. But, when I think about you're a councillor and now you're the mayor, is there a real big difference from being a councillor to being the mayor? Your responsibilities would be different, but is there a real difference?
There is a responsibility, but prior to me being mayor, I was on the ground. I'm listening. I attend a lot of stuff by the great community and for the community. I love my council. I participate and get a lot of support from council. They're on the ground, and I have gone to, a lot of consultation days that's been available to the public. I've gone to a lot of events. I've gone, the briefings. I've always attended all those things, and I've asked for, extra days on some big issues, and council have always supported giving us extra information and how to be more helpful with the community. So I've always participated.
You've got a real diverse community here too.
We do.
When I look at if I look down Pier Street and I see what's happened down Pier Street and the pier itself and the great developments that have happened there, and then if I go down to Millers Road and I look at the shopping precinct down there and all, there's been some real great changes that have taken place over a period of time. But that's got to be challenging too, to maintain that too.
But that's highlighting an example by working together. I'm someone who works together. Working with the state government, which we've got the Sea of Williamstown MP Melissa Horn. I've worked with, you talk about infrastructure, the Queen Street Cycling Bridge, which I was actively involved, working tirelessly hard to get that off the ground, collecting petitions, mentioning in nearly every briefing for 2 years, we need the cycling bridge to happen, lobbying the MPs, which is now ready for construction. Council got.
When's that going to start?
That's already started.
Excellent.
That's started. So this has been lobbied by the great community, including myself, about 5-6 years before my time in council. And then when I was in council, I was able to work with my colleagues to get a concept design. And then we lobbied our MPs, MP Melissa Horn and MP Matthew Hilakari, and together they did a great partnership to get it done. And we're going to be in charge of, council's going to be in charge of the maintenance.
Oh, okay. So it'll be a council bridge, so to speak, from a maintenance perspective.
For the maintenance perspective, but it is a state government,
So what would you say that was one of your, say, biggest achievements?
In council?
Yeah, in council.
I think the cycling bridge, getting that done, because I worked not just by using my voice, but by working with the greater community, being on the ground, where collecting signatories. When I first got elected to council, I had a baby, and then I had a 3-year-old. I was taking them nearly every weekend on going to shopping centres, going to sports centres, going to the local train stations, collecting signatures to get the Queen Street Cycling Bridge, lobbying my council colleagues and the council for support for this project to happen. So there was consultation days, there was information sessions.
Excellent.
And that gave me a tool to use my voice. And years prior, the great community and other councillors before my time did try to get the Queen Street cycling bridge.
So you've been a councillor for...
I got elected in 2020.
Okay. All right. So this is your second term then?
That is correct, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So and this is your first term as a mayor?
That is correct, yes.
I like how you say that is correct. So mayor-ish.
It's
so
so-
mayor-ish. That is
so-
correct. I
yes.
could see you negotiating with
I'm
the
already
minister.
negotiating.
Yes, minister.
Yes.
Do you
yes.
have that yes, minister moment? You're probably too young to know the show.
Well, it was one of my grandfather's favourite shows.
One of my favourite shows.
So I do know about it. But you also talked about achievements.
Yep.
I've lived, as I've mentioned previously, I've lived in the area since I've Bambino. I have seen the changes that I was able to implement with my colleagues, and that was working on the ground. Let's talk about the library in Altona Meadows, a library that I actually lobbied with the great community prior to that. When I was at school, we didn't have an Altona Meadow library. Us and the community and my parents, mum and dad, we lobbied to get a library in Altona Meadows. And now I'm a councillor who actually got an upgrade for one of the councillors who got an upgraded for the Altona Meadows, which I highly recommend you checking it out.
Maybe we go for a walk down there next time.
We will, definitely. We will. You know, areas like Bruce Combin Reserve, that's an upgraded $5 million upgrade. Alma Park, the park that I played on, I never thought in a million years I would be one of the councillors to upgrade that. And I did fight to get that upgraded, and the Laverton upgrades have been amazing where I also played, but also it's benefited the great community. So there's been a lot of changes that I've proud that great
and
work.
so you should
and
be.
That's working with your colleagues, really negotiating, because I'm for everyone in Hobsons Bay.
And I think that's the real beautiful thing about what you've just said. It's not just about your electorate. It's about
absolutely.
It's about the residents of Hobsons Bay. They all deserve the same service, no matter which area you represent. Of course, you'll work more with the area that you represent because that's your patch. But it's really important to hear and listen, and it's great to hear you say that about you're there for everybody at the end of the day, and especially even as mayor.
Absolutely. I can even reflect on when I was a child, me and Mum would talk about, we need more trees in the area. So me and Mum would say, okay, what are we going to do about this? The next week, my mum said we're going to be planting trees up in Wyndham and the Laverton area. I don't live in Wyndham, but I'm happy to work with anybody. So me and Mum actually used to plant a lot of trees, and then I joined the Friends of Scarlett Creek about 8-9 years before I was elected to council, planting trees, cleaning up rubbish in the area, and I served on the committee for about 9 years. I still work with them in council, but because of council, being a councillor, I was able to get more work done. I'm one of the lucky ones who were able to get work done as a councillor, but I do recognise I need to do more as well. And that's why I went for re-election.
It never stops, does it?
It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And you're negotiating. You've got to think about, it's not about you. It's not personal. It's about your ward, but it's also about all the wards.
So that's interesting when you say you do work within your wards. And I think it's important that we do work across the board, is what you said too. So
look at the foreshore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what I said before. What's really great about what I hear and what I hear you say is that you're not just for your electorate, you're for the region, for the Hobsons Bay City Council.
Absolutely.
And as you should be, not just only as a mayor, but as a councillor. I face the same when I used to have people from a different area come, and we used to say wards. People say, "Oh, look, I'm not from your ward." So what? You're in the city of Brimbank, or you're in the city of Sunshine. How can I help you? I'm here to serve, and that's what you do, and it's great. I've been busting to ask too,
yes,
and this is a question. How do you get on with other local councils?
Great. I do meet with local councils regularly. I've done that more so being mayor, but prior to me being mayor, I've always. Week 1, I got elected in 2020. I met with my neighbouring council. So I do. I think that's an important key.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's what's sometimes lacking within the Western region. We tend to become competitive instead of being united. There's a lot of things that we can do. I mean, I'll give you a prime example. Just last week, I'm thinking last week because today's Tuesday. Yeah, the end of last week, I had a report that I was reading and from Wyndham too about the traffic. You know, when that truck went over the bridge and it lost its load on the ring road.
Yes.
And, you know, the comment was that there needs to be some accountability. And I think what we've done wrong in this region is we've allowed for great development to happen, you know, for housing and everything else to happen. But one of the things that we haven't done is made developers accountable for infrastructure costs. You know, they'll talk about having a school. We're going to have a school here. We're going to have a McDonald's here. We're going to have shops there. But one thing that they don't talk about, and it was something that I was pushing when I was a councillor, that it's not just about those services, it's about making sure that infrastructure is there so that there's not only one arterial road going in and out of Laverton, you know, or in and out of Point Cook, or in and out of Altona Meadows. There's got to be other infrastructure to get people to move easily. You know, we become a bottleneck in this area. As soon as something happens on that ring road or something happens on the Princess Freeway or the Westgate Freeway, everything comes to a stop in the west.
Absolutely. And this is the key highlight, talking to your neighbouring council, talking to your government bodies and working together.
Yeah.
And putting everything on the table. Do not shy away on those topics. I grew up, you don't shy away. You know, I've spoken to prime ministers, I've spoken to local MPs. You speak your truth. I'm pretty well organised. I have documented evidence when have fought for many things to say, this is the evidence, I come to you and let's have the conversation. And what can we do? And I'm always looking to put my hand up.
Yeah, no, that's
even prior to me being me. Yeah.
No, and it's great. What would you say would have been your hardest gig to do?
I think when I worked on, we had issues in my area, in looking back in my last term, on second college placements.
Okay, interesting.
That was something that I was passionate about before my time in council, but then I took it on board as a councillor. Altona Meadows has lobbied for a high school for a number of years, including when I was at school. I've brought this to the MP's attention for the Cedar Point Cook, and we spoke to residents who were impacted. I think that's a key word, being impacted, because you can get a lot of signatories or information, but we need to just stick to the impacted residents, and it was second college placements. So what in the outcome, which took about 2.5 years, going to committee meetings, having documented evidence ready, this is an issue for the state government, and why I'm taking it on board as an advocate on my behalf of my greater community, is second college placement. So we weren't able to get a high school. What's the next step? Residents said, for example, to go to Altona Second College, where they weren't even able to apply there. For the last couple of years, they're now able to apply for that school because of the fighting, because of the advocacy work I did, but then I worked very closely with MP Matthew Hilakari on this great issue that has impacted, and we've heard very positive feedback. It is, and I inherited this position where I got to go to Altona Second College because it's actually easier access than it is to local Laverton High School, which is over the railway bridge. So that was the concern, and we were able to have a good fight and meet in the middle. And that's what I mean. You need to negotiate. You need to be prepared.
It's got to be a win-win situation.
It's got to be a win-win situation. And you're not always going to get what you want, but you still find a middle ground.
You fight the fight.
You fight the fight, and sometimes you got to negotiate. It was in the middle. I'd love a high school in the area, but
I like it when you say high school, because nowadays we talk about secondary colleges.
Second college.
You know, but I get you.
I'm a bit old fashioned. I should say second college placement. That was one of the biggest fights. It was a long, lengthy, but we got
How long?
We got there over. Prior to my time in council was about 5.5 years. During my term in council was 2.5 years.
That long?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Geez, that's...
It was when MP Matthew Hilakari got on board.
That things changed, or...?
That things started to change, yes.
Geez, I mean, you would think that would be automatic almost, something like that, gives an opportunity to our younger generation, to our youth for development.
I would say that, but I don't want to go too much into
that's
zoning.
fine.
Zoning's that's not my department.
No,
so,
that's fine.
But we got there, yeah.
So you've talked about your achievements, and this is definitely one of those great achievements, I would say.
A great one, yeah.
Yeah. What was probably something that, you believe that you could have done better?
I'm going to talk about the wetland centre, and I'm also going to talk about the aquatic strategy, aquatic in Bruce Combin Reserve. So I'll go to the wetlands first. I'm disappointed that, we had a good fight. We were on the ground with this great idea. It's a great initiative. It covers environment, it covers education, all ages and ability that can have access to the wetland centre. I did lobby, I did advocate. Probably second ward vote, what could have been done more. And I put that to my responsibility.
I think you're being a little bit hard on yourself
I'm
too.
always hard on myself, so but I'll own it.
Because it's not your final decision, is it?
That is correct. Yeah,
so it's a combination. So,
we're
I get
still
it
in the
that you're
good fight.
disappointed. Yeah, so these things happen. And as long as you put up a good fight, that's all that really matters at the end. You go in there with boots on the ground, with, kicking and screaming and negotiating, as you've rightly so said, but you're not going to win all the time.
No. But I always look back and go, I wish I could have done this differently, or wish I've done that differently. I'm always prepared. I'm always looking to, you've got to negotiate with your colleagues. It's not just about your ward. You've got to be give and take. And that probably
Absolutely
set us back to get, other projects. But I'm a winner for Hobsons Bay.
There are other needs too, isn't there?
There's other needs. And
that's, sometimes you don't throw it away. You just park it on the shelf to take up that fight for another day or another time that's suited, or funding or whatever, So, because I said that because I felt that you were going to get emotional, and I thought,
I do, yeah.
I don't see that as a failure. I see that at sometimes there are other projects that will be more of a community need than what your project may be or your passion may be.
Yeah, and it's not just a passion. I'm fighting to have. Often we got to focus on what's greater for our community. As I've mentioned, I'm third generation, so I've lived in the area, I've volunteered, I've worked in the area. I think I know it all. No, sit back and listen.
Great point.
That is, you got to listen, because you think, hang on, no. You got to be a listener, because, I can get it wrong too, right? And I've got it wrong, what the greater people need. But when I see something for all ages of abilities, when I see something for education, when I see something for mental health, environment, at the wetlands, and we do need more infrastructure in Altona Meadows, why not? And it's not just for Altona Meadows, it'll be regional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's, I've got to work with everyone, and that's where I'm working with all government bodies and stakeholders to get this hopefully off the ground. That's what I'm fighting, and I do get, as you mentioned, I do get emotional. Sometimes I'm all over the place. I do 10 different things all at once. So I get emotional. I need to just step back and...
No, I hear you loud and clear. Yeah. I was feeling it. I'm thinking, no.
I am an emotional counsel, but I can promise you, I do...
passionate too.
I'm passionate, but I do come with focus, and sometimes I do tend to go off in the wilderness a bit too much.
Or in the wetlands.
More the wetlands, yeah. And I can confuse people at times. So as a council, I wish sometimes less words, but sometimes I can't be helped.
No, it's a credit to you. I've got to say that besides the obvious of saying thank you so much for being a guest on the local today.
I've got more.
Oh, you want to say more?
Oh,
Okay,
well,
go.
Okay, so the primary focus we are.
I'm not in control. That's
No,
fine.
and that is fine. I am, the man. I'm a very passionate advocate, as I mentioned, for everybody. So primary focus is pushing federal and state leaders to connected, reliable public transport. That's the good fight, and I've done that more than a decade before I was in council. So growing up in the outer areas of the municipality, I know how hard it is without a car. I do. Haven't always had a car. The recent community campaign for a new Altona North train station shows how much there is need for improved transport in our networks. And we're advocating for that in council. We are fighting for fair access to health and community services because the background in the food relief and social care, making sure families and health and mental health services are close to home, and is deeply personal to me. And we're still fighting that good fight.
Great.
To have on that. Securing funding for the wetlands, as I mentioned, is a major goal. Our natural spaces in our beautiful city, our natural city, and I'm passionate about preserving them in future generations. We're advocating for resilient, efficient and climate-ready housing. It is vital that our local housing says affordable, safe, to build with a future that climate changes.
I think that next time I introduce the show, I'll say hosted by Mayor Grimma.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you to our guest, Mayor Grimma. Like I said before, I think you're going to end up presenting the local. But anyway, thank you for being on the show. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into the local. It's been a great opportunity here today. And I've got to say, I really enjoyed our conversation this morning. So if you'd like to get more information on the local, you can contact our great producer, Scarlett Rose, who's just behind the camera. And you'll see the email address right now on the screen. So you can email Scarlett Rose and put in what your requests may be. Look forward to enjoying your company at our next episode of The Local, and we'll see you next time on The Local. Goodbye, and thank you so much.